You sit down to finally decide what you want from your life. You clear the schedule, you close the tabs, you make the coffee, and then comes the silence. Not peaceful silence, the kind that has teeth. You reach inward for the thing that used to be there, some pulse, some pull, some clear direction, and your hand closes around nothing. Not emptiness exactly, more like a room where furniture used to be, still warm from someone who just left. If that specific sensation lives somewhere behind your sternum right now, stay here. Subscribing to this channel is not a click. It is the act of choosing, maybe for the first time in a while, to take your own inner life seriously. You used to want things with a physical urgency. As a child, wanting had texture, temperature, weight. Somewhere between then and now, the wanting got professionally managed, socially edited, and quietly, methodically hollowed out. This video is not a guided meditation. It is a forensic investigation into the precise mechanisms that stripped your desire down to its frame. We are going to name each one. Some of them will feel uncomfortably specific. Thief number 1 is comparison absorption. Not the casual kind where you glance at someone's life and feel a small pang, the deep cellular kind where you inhale their vision and slowly exhale your own without noticing the exchange. Darius had a clear internal compass at 23. He wanted to work with his hands, restore old furniture, build things that lasted. Then his older brother launched a startup, and the family dinner table shifted its center of gravity permanently. The attention, the pride, the specific quality of his mother's eyes when she talked about his brother's funding round. Darius felt a sharp pull in his chest he misread entirely. He thought it was ambition. It was actually grief wearing ambition's jacket. He pivoted into tech, learned the vocabulary, performed the enthusiasm, acquired the credentials. 8 years later, he still flinches slightly when he passes furniture restoration workshops. That flinch is a message he has been refusing to open. Comparison doesn't just distort desire, it performs a quiet substitution at the molecular level, like someone swapping your prescription lenses for theirs while you sleep, and you spend years wondering why the world looks slightly wrong to you. Thief number 2 is conditional validation in childhood. The process by which the adults around you rewarded specific desires and responded to others with a silence so loaded it functioned as a verdict on your entire inner landscape. See, Amara loved marine biology with a passion that was almost inconvenient. She drew sea creatures on everything. Her bedroom walls were covered in hand-painted ocean diagrams. This love was enormous, specific, and entirely hers. Her father was not cruel. He simply changed the subject every time she brought it up, redirected towards something practical with the smooth efficiency of a person who genuinely believed he was protecting her from disappointment and instability. She learned the redirection, internalized the subject change. By 16, she had performed the pivot so thoroughly that when her school counselor asked what she loved, she answered with a career title instead of a feeling. Pause here. Drop a comment below. Tell me one thing you wanted as a child that got quietly redirected out of you. Don't intellectualize it, just name it. That specific thing is probably still waiting in the anteroom of your actual life. Thief number 3 is what I call performance fatigue of desire. The condition that sets in when you have been required to manufacture enthusiasm, simulate passion, and demonstrate convincing wanting for so long that the mechanism ceases from overuse. Joaquin spent 2 years applying for creative director positions. Every application required a portfolio of passionate vision statements. Every interview required him to perform certainty about a future he was increasingly unable to actually picture. He became technically proficient at wanting. His enthusiasm was precise, well-paced, and completely synthetic. When he finally got the role, the victory had a hollow acoustic quality, like clapping in an empty parking structure at midnight.
We perform wanting in job interviews, first dates, family gatherings, therapy sessions. We simulate preference so continuously that the genuine article starts to feel foreign, almost suspicious, like a word you've repeated until it stops meaning anything. Thief number 4 is what therapists call identity foreclosure. The moment when the character you assembled for social survival becomes so structurally load-bearing that dismantling any part of it feels like the whole architecture might collapse. You stop updating yourself. The preferences you expressed at 24 calcify into your permanent personality. People reference them back to you at 38 as evidence of who you are, and you smile and nod because correcting them feels disloyal. Amara was the adventure person, the one who always said yes, always had a story, always made the group feel alive with possibility. This identity served her beautifully until she quietly, privately started craving stillness, and nobody around her could accommodate that version. When she mentioned wanting to spend a year just reading and cooking and staying home, her friends laughed warmly. They assumed she was joking. The laugh landed on her like a soft hand, pressing her back into a shape she had already outgrown. She dropped it, kept performing the adventure identity, but something underneath started going silent, the way a musical instrument goes silent when nobody is playing it, until eventually you forget what it sounded like when it was alive. Thief number 5 is the paralysis of infinite optionality, the condition unique to this particular cultural moment, where having access to every possible version of a life makes choosing any one of them feel like an act of catastrophic self-limitation. Comment below. When did having too many choices last leave you more confused than when you started? That specific paralysis is not a character flaw. It is a predictable neurological response to a menu that was never designed for human-scale deciding. Brixton stood in front of 43 potential career pivots he had researched across 11 browser tabs and felt a creeping dread that had nothing to do with any specific option. The dread was structural. It lived in the choosing itself. When every door is theoretically open, the act of walking through one feels less like freedom and more like permanently foreclosing on all the others. So you stand in the hallway indefinitely and call it keeping your options alive. The hallway is not a strategy. It is a slow form of self-disappearance dressed up in the language of flexibility. People who live there long enough eventually lose the ability to feel the difference between options and actual desire. Thief number 6 is trauma-shaped desire suppression, the sophisticated internal mechanism your nervous system built after repeated experiences of wanting something and having the wanting itself become the source of pain rather than the path to it. Not everyone who lost their desires has a single dramatic origin story. Sometimes it accumulated slowly, small repeated experiences of reaching for something and finding the reaching used against you. The system learns. It stops reaching. Soleil stopped anticipating things at around age 10. Her household ran on unpredictability. Events that were promised evaporated, plans dissolved overnight. She learned that the gap between wanting something and having it taken was a specific kind of internal damage she could prevent by simply not wanting it. This is extraordinarily efficient psychology. The nervous system does not distinguish between protection and deprivation. It just reduces the surface area available for disappointment, and it keeps reducing until the interior goes very, very quiet. She describes her current emotional landscape as a photograph with the color temperature turned down to almost zero. Not clinically depressed, just operating in a narrow bandwidth of feeling, like a radio stuck between two stations, catching only static. Thief number 7 is hyper-rational override, the intellectual habit of prosecuting your own desires before they can develop enough momentum to become real, using logic as a preemptive measure against your own inconvenient interior life.
Drop a comment. How many genuine desires have you thought your way out of before they were 30 seconds old? Name one.
just one. That 30-second window is precisely where your authentic wanting is most vulnerable to your own arguments. Zephyr was analytically gifted in ways that consistently worked against her inner life. Every impulse got filed under scrutiny before it reached feeling. She could construct a flawless counterargument against any desire in the time it takes to brew a single cup. She wanted to study architecture at 20. Her own mind presented the objection so efficiently she never enrolled. At 37, she walks past construction sites and feels a specific pulling sensation behind her ribs that she has no language for. The mind is not your desire's ally. It is a highly capable prosecutor with no interest in your actual flourishing. Left unsupervised, it will build an airtight case against anything inconvenient, uncertain, or difficult to explain at a dinner party. Thief number 8 is borrowed desire infrastructure. The condition of having absorbed so many external frameworks for what a meaningful life looks like, that your own framework never got the raw materials or the quiet space to construct itself from scratch. Culture, family, religion, social media, and educational institutions collaborate in building a detailed, pre-packaged wanting system. Career timelines, relationship structures, property milestones, productivity aesthetics, body standards, all delivered before you were old enough to interrogate any of it. Sloane followed the script with a precision that impressed everyone who knew her. Graduated early, promoted fast, engaged at 29, homeowner at 31, she did everything correctly and arrived at 34 feeling like a well-executed plan that belonged to someone else entirely. Not ungrateful, she knew she was lucky, but gratitude and aliveness are not the same sensation, and the difference between them was making itself known with increasing urgency every time the house went quiet and she was alone with no role to perform. Inheriting someone else's framework for wanting is not the same as living. It is house-sitting with excellent attention to detail. You maintain it beautifully, but at some cellular level, you know the furniture was never chosen for you. Drop a comment. What milestone did you achieve that you expected to feel like more than it did? Name it plainly. That specific gap between the anticipated warmth and the actual temperature is one of the most precise diagnostics available to you. Thief number 9 is structural avoidance of stillness. Not casual distraction, but a deeply organized internal system for ensuring that genuine quiet never lasts long enough for your actual desires to gather sufficient strength to become audible. Your real desires live in the gaps, the 3-second pauses between tasks, the moment before sleep when your mind briefly loosens its grip. Your system has become extraordinarily skilled at filling those gaps before the signal can complete its sentence. Ledger worked 60-hour weeks voluntarily, not from financial pressure, from a specific terror of the apartment at 7 in the evening when the work was done and something shapeless but insistent was waiting for him in the silence. He described the feeling as a low-frequency vibration in his sternum that he could feel but not locate. Not pain, not grief, not loneliness in any clean, categorical sense. Just a persistent hum of something unresolved, demanding his honest, undivided attention. Stillness is not the problem. Stillness is the only environment in which suppressed desire can finally accumulate enough pressure to push through the noise. Your system avoids it for the same reason you avoid a conversation you know will change something. Thief number 10 is the most structurally embedded. The rehearsed performance of desire for social legibility, the habit of knowing what you are supposed to want and saying it fluently enough that the forgery becomes indistinguishable from the original. Waverly had a vision board. She talked about her goals with the fluid ease of someone who had practiced them into complete coherence. People found her inspiring. At 31, she sat in her car in a parking structure and quietly realized she felt nothing about any of it. Not devastated, just observing, the way you observe weather through a window. The vision board was real, the goals were real, but they were assembled from external signals about what a person like her should aspire to, rather than from anything she had actually felt pulling at her from inside. This is the most difficult theft to recover from. Not because the desires are gone, but because the performance of wanting has been so sustained and so convincing that you have started confusing your own autobiography with the character you built for other people.
Here's the turning point. You stop cataloging what was taken and start asking what conditions are required for genuine desire to feel safe enough to return. Because it will not come back through effort. It comes back through environment. The environment it requires is the absence of audience. Your desire needs to want in private before it can exist in public. Stop announcing things before you've verified they're real. Stop crowdsourcing your interior life to people who were never qualified to evaluate it. Let something want quietly first, a small pull towards something you cannot fully justify, a lean, a return, a topic that keeps appearing in your peripheral attention without being invited. Don't name it yet, just notice it's there and stop evicting it. The person rebuilding on the other side of this process is not softer, they are more precise. They have developed a specific discernment that allows them to hold an impulse up to the light and ask the only question that matters. Whose voice named this first? You begin substituting the question. Instead of asking, "What do you want?" which has been colonized by performance, you ask, "What do you keep returning to when the audience disappears?" That is a harder question. It is also the only honest one. What do you read when nobody will ever know you read it? What problems do you find yourself mentally chewing on during commutes, not because they're useful, but because they have some magnetic quality you can't explain or dismiss? These are not hobbies, they are coordinates. Small, precise marks your authentic self has been leaving in the margins of your managed, socially approved existence, while the performed version kept the front door presentable for visitors. Inigo found his answer in a moment of complete boredom at a conference he had paid $1,500 to attend. He was supposed to be networking. Instead, he was absorbed in sketching structural diagrams on his napkin without planning to. He didn't construct a manifesto from it, he just followed the thread. Signed up for one architecture course, then another. Didn't announce it, didn't post about it, just let it be real before he made it a story anyone else could weigh in on. This is precisely how authentic desire rebuilds itself after long suppression, not through dramatic revelation or curated awakening, through a series of small, quiet physical clues that your body never stopped generating, even when your mind refused to receive them. Your body logged every moment your chest loosened unexpectedly, every time time disappeared without effort, every specific environment where your breathing changed without you consciously directing it. That data exists. You simply rerouted the attention away from it. Start reading that data with the same rigor you apply to everything external. You are a singular, non-reproducible interior landscape. Stop letting other people's cartography tell you what's on your terrain when you have access to the original source material. The precision you develop through this process is your new edge. The ability to hold a desire up to the light, feel its weight, and determine whether it originates from your actual interior or from the long accumulated pressure of someone else's expectations of you. You stop performing the wanting. You stop rehearsing it for social consumption. You stop using other people's approval as evidence of your own correct navigation. You start sitting with the slightly uncomfortable, occasionally surprising, frequently inconvenient truth of what actually moves you from the inside. You are not a person who lost their desires. You are a person whose desires went underground to survive the conditions above them. And they are still there,
still specific, still entirely yours, waiting for the precise moment when you finally make it safe enough for them to come home.